Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Back on Crusty. The worst part of this car, the whole time since I got it, was this front upper valance and lower valance. It was non-existent on the passenger side, top and bottom, okay? The thing with this car is I'm trying to repair every panel on the car. I can sit down and replace panels, buy fenders, buy hoods, buy the works of it. This here was probably the worst part of the entire car that I had to repair. I went ahead and I repaired it. I'm going to walk you through how I done it. I got over 20 pieces in it and 3 days worth of work. Stick around. Poor thing, out in the snow. I've been busy here the week. I've been at the Mustang here doing work on that, and the evenings now I've been at this here. Not getting into details right now. Won't have a video on this section of the car because I'm doing a bunch of figuring out. I got everything hauled apart here. We'll come to that. What we're going to go over today is I figured I'd get back to doing some more sheet metal work on Crusty. This is the front ear dam. This is extremely rough, okay? This whole corner here is gone. The whole top section here is gone. Right here, all that's gone. And there's a scaly rust all the way along. And it's got weak spots here and there. Now, it might be wise to probably just replace this, but I can't find one, okay? I wouldn't say I can't find one. It's just like I can't put my hands on one here on the island. You know, shipping a large item like this is going to be more than what the item is worth, okay? If I found a used one and whatnot. But in saying that, my whole goal with this car was to repair everything on the car, okay? I didn't want to get into panel replacement. A lot of fellas do that. I've done it many, many times. I think the challenge with this car is repairing everything, okay? It's not the whole point that, Tony, you should just replace that. It's the whole point that, let's say, when the car is finished and done, I can sit down and say that every panel on this car is original. It's all been repaired. It was all rusted out, but it's still the original panels on the car. You know, whatever. Okay. Anyway, so what I got to do here now is I got to clean this up. I'm not going to disturb. I'm not going to chop nothing off this. I'm going to use this as templates. I'm going to have to build this section here, going across here with this shape in it, coming down with a little roll bead on it with a flat edge on the bottom side of it. I dare say I'll be building it in multiple pieces. It's good over here. It's a surface rust. It's a small spot here. And you get over here on the end, there's another small hole here. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to pull this rubber off. See how bad it is underneath that there. And I'm just going to take the grinder to it and not get heavy scale everything off it and actually see how bad this is. Well, I expected to hit this with the grinder to be nothing left to it. But no. That's scaly, much the same as the rest of the car. I don't mind that so much, and it's half solid. It's thin metal anyway. And I come over here and I got all this here grinded off. I got the rubber flap taken off it. I just knocked the head off all the rust. I never got heavily into it, okay? Like stripping it all down. First things first, some guys are looking at this, said, Tony, sandblast it, okay? You sandblast this, nothing left to it, okay? That's bottom of the line, that's what's going to happen, okay? There'll be absolutely nothing left of this piece. I know what this car is worth, okay? It's not, like I've said many times before, it's not a rare muscle car, nothing like that. It's a fun little toy I'm bombing around with. I don't see myself restoring this car to a point where all this here has to be looked after. Is the car going to break out down the road? Most definitely, it probably is. Why? Because it's a Toyota. It's a 70s Toyota. No matter what I does with the metal here, what's to say that right here where it's not no rust, that's not going to break out because of the type of metal it is. So all I'm doing with this car is I want to make it look really good and, you know, make it last as long as I possibly can. I have fun building it, and that's the biggest thing. I'm playing around, taking challenges onto myself to repair stuff. This here now, you can see all this here is gone. The side lip is all gone. Okay, the bottom is all gone, down as far as here. It's gone over here. I'm going to replace all that later. I don't want to go too far over. I have a couple of pinholes here that I'm going to address after the fact. Up here on top, you can see that is all thin. Right? So what I want to do, I'm going to start and do the hardest pieces first, which is this piece here, this end here. Between this side here now and this side over here, I will get the shape out of it. I'm not cutting nothing out of it yet, okay? I'm leaving this right here where it's to. I'm going to start shaping this up. First thing I'm going to size this up is how much I'm going to take out of it. Now there's pinholes over here, but I don't want to go coming all the way over here and trying to make this whole large section. I'm just going to repair the lower section down here. And she's gone to here, and I think I'm going to take it to about right here somewhere. And then replace this whole section here, and build it, and then replace it, and then move on. I'm going to do that one next, okay? And there's a bunch of small little holes in it that I figure there's just going to be more tedious than anything else, but I can get the repairs done to it. So what I'm going to do here now, as you look at this here, this has a shape. It's probably best to look at the other side. This side over here got the entire shape, is still there, okay? You look at this here now, it's got a contour. This is flat up here, okay? This is flat rolling down around here, and it's got a lip going all the way down around here that's going on. So I'm going to put that lip on after the fact. This here comes down, then it rolls into this here and rolls back again. Not worried about this down here yet. That's the way this goes. It rolls down to here. Now when it rolls down through here, then it rolls back up, but then fades out off to this end here, and then goes flat on the bottom side here and rolls underneath. I could see me making this. This is going to be made in 1, 2, possibly 3, maybe 4 pieces. I don't mind that so much. I'm just trying to duplicate what's there. Some are saying, well, why don't you just make a full custom roll pan, eliminate that altogether. I want to have this car looking to appear looking stock, okay? I'm kind of hung up on it, and I can make a lot of custom stuff for this. I've done it in the past, but I just like the whole thought of taking on a challenge of making something like this look original, okay? So I'm gonna go find a piece of metal now that's probably from here over to here, probably back to here, probably down to here, and just take a large piece to start with and start figuring out where I'm gonna start making my cuts and put my couple of rolls and bends in it. So I got the piece of tin all cut out. There's a piece I had there that I had used on the old Chevy over here, and it's got a bit of a crown on it, and I ran it through the English wheel, so I don't mind that because this section here has a little bit of a crown on it anyway. So what I got done here now, this is just a large piece cut out. All I'm going to be concerned about now is getting this section here in it, okay? Going along here, and as you can see, it comes along here and just fades off. I'm not going to worry about down here yet, none of this. All I'm going to worry about is getting this little roll going along here. So I got something there that I can actually starting point. So I got to put it's a cut edge on it. It comes off here, and then it rolls down, and then it rolls flat again, right? So there's probably like 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, about 3/4 of an inch there that I got to roll in it. So I'm going to mark it out. I got to start it here now. Draw a line across here. Then I'm going to lightly bend it in the brake, and then I'm going to bend it back, and then I'm going to start dollying it with the T-dolly to get it to roll, because there's no sharp edges on this here. This is just a very subtle roll. So I'll work on getting the rolls right. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Don't overthink this. I'm not worried about none of this up here. I made sure that when I put this on here, it's up past that, it's out past this here, okay? All I'm worried about now is getting a starting point in the middle. I'm not going to cut this first, because when you hammer, if you try to cut this first, what ends up happening, and you start bending this here, you bend it too high or too low, and then this is too short or too long. So I leave that to last. Anytime I'm making panels like this here, I like to start in the middle and work my way out from it, right? So I'm going to go ahead now, get these marked, and I'm going to go over and put a couple of bends in it. Just marked it on the outside. I had to change my mark because this was, I never had enough material up here. I don't mind this being on a bit of an angle because all this has got to be cut out anyway. So I'm going to take this here now, and I had to mark it on the back side right here. So I'm just going to take it in now, put it in here, and just put a bend in it and straighten it up. And bend it this way, and then pull it back. About 3/4 of an inch, and it goes away to nothing. All right. There's weight nothing on this end here. So I got to put that like that. I'm just going to roll that back this way. That's my starting point. So there's my first trial fit. It still needs to come down here a bit more of a roll on this down here, and it fades out over to here. When I lift it up and I look down it, I can see that it has to have a roll inside that cavity. So I'm going to work on this here now. All I'm concerned about is getting this here looking right. I got to take this here now and roll this down here a little bit more on this end here, but it fades out to where I got it down here. And I'm going to turn around and start rolling this here. You can see where I'm going to have to bend this back along here. And then that's got to come up this way here on this end here. But all I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I'm thinking about joining through this lip here. Build this lip on this here, and then make the bottom piece separate, and then weld two of them together through there, and then I can shape that piece there. So I'm going to go ahead now, dolly this a bit more, and work on, see if I can get this here to fit down in here. And I think I'm also going to mark this here now and start working, getting this here straightened away, and see what I can come up with there. So I went ahead, and I got a bit more of a roll in that end there. I'm happy with it up there now. What I'm working on now is getting this bottom lip right here. I got this lip that comes along here and goes up here. What I did is I flipped it upside down and just come over here and I marked it like so. I laid that place where I thought I was happy with it, and I marked it right through that line there. It's hard to do it with one hand. And I got that marked there now. So what I'm going to do, I want to leave, this is where the lip will be. I'm going to leave this here now and come along here and cut this much of this off here. So I got about a ½ inch, 3/8 of an inch or more of space right here. So that way I can fold that lip up, right? Well, I sat down now and I trimmed it up. I got it trimmed up as best I can, and I turn around and I mark this along here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fold that this bottom lip down here. I must have fold that along that marker line there. I will have to dolly it and a bit more and stuff like that. It would have been nicer if I had a stronger line, but it's very hard to get it in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and bend this up, see where I'm to, and then I can start dollying it to make it fit better. So I'm just going to go ahead now and take this here now and bend all this. This looks to be about a 45-degree angle, and just bend all this now on a 45-degree. I'll probably use the voice to do it, or can I? No, I'm going to bend it by hand, I think. Yeah, okay, bend it by hand. That was a much easier to bend over and get shaped than I thought. Fits nice in there. As you can see, it's nice down inside the cavity. So I'm going to dolly this a bit more and trim it up so there's the right height and everything. So I'll go ahead and get that done. So here's where I'm to now. What I went and did is I trimmed it up so it was close, and then all I did is I took the grinder, the air grinder, and I grinded it back. I'm using the existing panel as my guide, so I can grind that flush to that. So now I got my proper angles and everything here, and I've done the same thing on the side. I trimmed it off, and then I grinded it back using the existing rusty metal. So I got a guideline on it. Now I got all this done here. Now I can start building off of this. I'm pretty pleased with the way all this has gone here, and he's to tweak it a small bit up here. That's all got to be trimmed off up there yet. I might go ahead and trim that off yet. I don't know. I'm going to build the bottom first, though, I think. I got to make a piece now that goes over this here, that goes off the edge here. And then there's a bottom piece, because the bottom just got a curvature to it, see? Like that. And I'm going to build this in 3 pieces here. I think I could probably make this and this in one, but I just think it's a lot easier. I always find transitions and rolls, you end up putting a lot of time into them, trying to get them, like, you know, if I bent this up and then put this in a shrinker stretcher and then tweak this around here, roll it around, so yes, you'd get it. I'm just so used to doing it this way here, I find it a lot faster. So I'm just going to get a random piece of steel now, put in there, and tack weld that in place so I can actually get that section here welded on. So right here, you got this section here. You can sit down now and start drawing up little templates and fitting it all in there and having it the perfect size and rolling over it. Nah, I'm just going to take that there now, just like that. And weld that right on there like so. And then I'll trim it to fit. Don't that look lovely? Trim that up. Ouch. Another big piece. I'll just trim all this off here now, and I'm going to cap the end of it. So all I'm doing is I'm welding it up, trimming it off, and I'm going to put another piece on the bottom here because of the way this is shaped. This rolls off this way, and this rolls off this way. So I went ahead and I welded that on. So now I'm going ahead and I'm going to make the last piece on the bottom here, which is this here. And all I did is took a flat piece of steel, I clamped it in the vise, and tapped it over. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to round off the edge of it a bit on the T-dolly here. Okay, I got T-dolly out. I'll round it off there and I'll trim it so that'll fit in there like so. And I'll weld it on. Now the problem I got to watch here now is I want this to fall straight back. But if I fall straight back, it's going to be low here because of the way the metal is. So I'm going to have to trim this section off here in the end and tuck this up tighter so it fades out. Over here, I got it all bent back out of the way. This is the height it's got to be. And then this just tapers off and goes flush to this piece here, okay? So that's what I got to do with it. Going all along there. So I'll get this here all dollied up now. So I just roll over the edge a small bit using the dolly. And then I fit it up in place here and I cut the bottom section off. You can see I cut it off here, right? And I tuck this up so now this is flush with this here, okay, coming across there. So this here is flush coming right across this way here. And I turn around and I went and welded it all up. So that's got a bit of roll. I'm not going to grind none of this yet because I want to weld the back side of it yet. So next thing I need to do now is trim up this top section. And all I did is I come in here and I just took scribe and scribe that along there like so. And I'll turn around, I'll take that off and I'll trim that up and I'll lay it back in place again. And I'll grind that to fit that there. This is one of the main reasons why you want to leave rusty parts on. You're not going to get no better template than this here, okay? All this is still in place here now, and I'm using every bit of it, every access that I can use it. You can see there was no corner here, now I got a corner. I just used this plane here, and this plane here, and just made the two of them. And that's where the corner come from. And like the rolls and all that type of stuff. So I'll get this all trimmed off now, and we got one more piece to put on the top here. Another little lip, and then that piece will be made. Now I got that trimmed off there, and you can see there's still some there. But see this lip here? All I'm going to use this for now is a guide, and I'll grind this down flat to that. So I got that all cut down, then I start sanding it down and trimming it down. Then I fit it back on the car, and as if you look down through here, you can actually see that lip, okay? I sat down and started fitting and grinding so I can actually see a portion of this lip, because when I lays this cap on top of this here, I want it to be below this here. So I'm going to take this off and lay a piece on it and weld it, and then that'll bring me back to that height there. I've done it all the way along there. Going up along there, you can see it. So now when I caps this off here, the top section that I caps off will be the height of the original one, because the bottom one is already set up this way, right? There's always a problem when you got two sides like this here, because if you keep overlapping, you're going to end up making it bigger. So you got to downsize it and make sure that the overall width here is the same as what it was originally. So I'm going to go ahead now and get a strip and just lay it in there. I'm going to take this off and lay it in there and just start welding that around there. I got that all shaped, because that was pretty mangled in there, and I went and compared it to the other side, the way it's shaped, the way it rolls. Don't mind that kink farther back, but you see the way it rolls up. I did the same thing over here, so that it rolls up. It's hard to see there, but this got a turn on it, right? This kind of like goes like this, right? Just got sort of a turn to it. So I got all that done now, and I'm happy with it too, so I'm just going to get a strip now. Not going to disturb it, just lay it on that. Not going to worry about making it perfect, and just tack weld it on, make a nice wide piece, and then I'll trim it to fit. And there I got the strip, just a straight strip, and I just welded it on. And as it got up around here, it kind of like it went uphill because the way I got the curvature put in it. I left it alone, I just went ahead and welded it on. It was too wide, it was too long on this end, it was too long on that end. I'm not concerned about that. I just want to get the overall shape, so the piece that I want is there. I haven't got to add to it or anything like that. So now that I got everything welded into this, what I got to do now is I got to take this off, flip it over, weld everything up on the inside. Then I can turn around and start grinding all the outside of it and getting it dressed so that it looks good. So I'll go ahead now and get everything welded up on the inside. So I got it all welded up. Everything's welded up on the inside, as you can see. It all has a nice solid piece out here now. I won't worry about trimming none of it up yet. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to dress all the outside here and get it all right nice. I'm going to grind the sides flat, roll the edges on it, get all this here rolling right nice. Make this all look like one piece all the way around. And then what I'll do is I'll start trimming it all up so that it'll look like the actual piece on the car. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to bore you. I'm just going to go ahead, grind all this down. And when I comes back, I'll have it all grinded down. It's always a lot of fun sanding them down. And there you have it. A fully shaped panel. Look at that, all different angles. Okay, you can fine tune it a bit more. The upper lip there, way it rolls off the edge. Looking down across it. Across it this way. And you got the roll edge off the end of it here. This fades off. And then that's the replacement piece for there. So all I got left to do here now with this is I got to start trimming up the bottom of this here. So it's only so wide. Same with the top. Cut the ends off. You can see there are different lengths going on there. So I'll trim that off there nice. And I got to mark it up here and cut this end off because this ends right here. This ends here, so I got to cut that off straight like that. And then I got to mark this down here so this fades out, and this fades out as well, because this fades out almost to nothing on these outer corners here, as you can see here, right? It almost fades right out to nothing. And then that panel is ready to install. But I might have, I don't know, 2.5, maybe 3 hours in this. You see the way it's all made. You can fool around and try to make this out of one piece. And then one of the advantages, I made this with 18 gauge metal. That's another thing I forgot to tell you. I make it out of heavier steel. That way I got lots to grind. I can really get aggressive with a grinder on this as long as I got it built up here on the edges, on the inside. That's what I usually do when I weld them. I weld them on the inside, nice deep down inside there, all the way around. So I got a nice rolled edge that I can do and get it to fit nice. So I just find that trying to fight to get shapes the way cars are shaped, all these panels are pressed out. When you try to like a bend of metal and put a 90 degree on and then try to make it fit, I've always found it was always hard to get it to flow properly. If you just concentrated on one plane at a time and just added it all and welded it all together, you'll come out with something like this here. It's a lot faster and a lot easier, especially on something where you cannot find the panels, okay? So, you know, and like, you know, as you've seen, I kept this intact. I used this as my template. I never had no other template but this here, and I used this here to make that there. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this all marked up, get it trimmed up, and get this piece so this is actually finished. So, here it is. I trimmed it all up. I'm not going to worry about this edge here. I'm going to leave this nice and stiff. As you can see out here, this kind of like drops back, tapers in, and comes out on a lip again. You probably see it better on this side, the way it's properly shaped. See the way that comes out there like that? I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to leave it fully straight down there just to give it strength. And I got to repair that side too, so I'll do the same thing over there. Well, I got that panel now that's all ready to install. All I got to do is a couple of spot welds up here, and that'll weld onto that. And then I just got to cut it off here, weld it on there. And that's that panel installed. So I'm going to go ahead now and get that done and get that welded in there so then I can start repairing some other stuff. I'm going to get the big stuff done and then do all the small things after, because there's a whole bunch of little small things. I got a couple of holes here that got to be done, so I might end up taking a piece out of here like so, putting a whole section in it. I won't bore you with that, but the next one will be this one up here, so it's a nice fun one as well. So once I get some strength back in it, I got to do some cutting up on this to clear the ear-to-ear unit, so I may have to lose this. I don't know. I'm trying to save this here for strength-wise, and I got to find a way to brace the middle. And there's two little tabs up here that I need. There's gone. There's one there that I got to put on them. That'll bolt onto the rad support. So I'll do a test fit on all that and get that all trimmed up so it all fits. But let's get this now. All I'm going to do now is put a couple of spot weld holes up here. And I'm going to butt weld it down here, just cut right through it and through that there and have that done. Same with up here. I'll just clean all this off. I'm not going to drill it out. I'm just going to grind this metal off here, find the spot welds and break it clear, and then fit it, and then make sure that I got it on the right angle. It's going to be tricky, isn't it? I'll figure it out. So I'm here now, and I got the piece all welded together here. And I started to fit the other side piece on, and when I cut it off, the original one, it fell off the top. Okay, so I start running the issues of where it actually went to, and I said to myself, I better test fit this to the car, and to the fender. So when I start test fitting it to the fender, I come to realize that the end was wrong, okay? This end here, that I had welded on here, all that wasn't the right shape. It didn't shape this shape. Right down here, this didn't shape, and up here on the top, it didn't shape to the fender. So I said to myself, it's no big deal. I said, I'll just cut it off, shape it to the fender, and weld it back on. But the more I think about it now, the problem I'm having here now is trying to find out the height here, a whole bunch of other things. I start looking at the repairs that got to be done to this here, but then I realized there's an intercooler going here. I'm going to have to cut this up here to notch it to fit the intercooler. So I'm saying to myself, you know, the best thing for me to do is to turn around and put the car back together in the front and build this and fit it on the car so that it's fitting properly. And then I can actually figure out where this goes to, because there is a small bit of material right here which mounts to the side of the fender, which mounts right here on the fender. When you look at it, this goes like so, right there, see? That's where that goes on the fender. So I knows where that got to go in terms of reference to the fender, but the problem with this is just doing it here laid on the floor. So all this conglomerate I got going on here now, I'm going to take it apart and put it away. It's only just all mocked together. It's easy to take apart. And I'm going to put the front back on the car and do it that way. What turned into a simple little small job that I figured, okay, I'll just bang this out and weld this up. The more I thought about it, I realized that there's a lot of fitment involved in it. This here is going to have to be mounted. So, as you know, I never had nothing here. And I start basing it off the other side. And then I realized I did do repairs on the fender. So, by doing repairs on the fender, being the same as that side there, you know, it is very close, but there is a subtle change right here. I think this tips out a little small bit. I assume had this matched the fender, then it would be worried about having it matching the other side. It's not off by much. It's off enough that when it comes time to fit it together, it doesn't look right. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this all straightened away, get all the front back on that. It's not going to take me very long. And we'll start progressing to making this fit on the bottom side. Some of you guys might have been looking at this saying, what is this piece belong to? So now you know what it's belonged to. This is the filler panel that goes below the bumper and above the bumper. Okay, the bumper goes in between the two of that, and they're going to be my two bumper mounts there. I played around with it. I had to move the fenders out, measure the distance from the fender. I had to trim off the bottom of the lip. Had to trim it right down thin, which was good because there were some spots on the bottom here that were a bit rusty. And by cutting it off, I just eliminated the rust, so I haven't got to do no repairs on the bottom of that. This pedestal here, I haven't got to move it. I got to do some slight modification over here for the intercooler. And of course, out on the sides here. The ends, I got to bolt down. I got to find some way to mount it. You can barely see the bar on the bottom side there, which is good. Hides that pretty good. I got to make sure that stays level to that and mounts to the fenders. This side is sticking off because there's no way to clamp it. I got to clamp down over here. So what I got to do here now is I got to start modifying the end of this here so that it actually fits the car. And it seems to me that I may have to cut this again because the distance that I got here is equal on both sides, but the entire pan is a little bit too wide. Now I'm going to have to redo this side too, so I might just take it up on that. I'm not quite sure yet. I think I'm going to cut this and shorten it a bit just to be safe about it. But this is where I'm to with it now, and you can see what I'm up against here. So that has to be moved over a small bit. I got into this thinking it'd be a nice quick little video that I'd be able to do. No, that's not happening, is it? I've been trying to get working on the steering geometry, getting some finalized fitment done so I can get some machine work done, and I've been at it now 2 or 3 days. Had a friend up here looking at it and stuff like that. So I don't want to rush that. It's going to be a little while more before it comes out with a video on that, because I want to complete all that machine work and all. So I'm going to move on to other parts of the car that got to be done, and namely this piece here. I got this to do. I got the trunk lid to do. So until I get all that video completed, it may take a few weeks because the rack is going to need machine work. But I would like to be able to have the video start to finish. So this is why I'm doing this here now, which I thought was going to be a quick video. Maybe I should have done the trunk lid first. Anyway, I'm here now. So I'm going to go ahead now and get this all fitted up and start getting it cut down so I can actually get it fitted on the car. So I went ahead and I cut a piece out. What I did, I made a template of the other side. Then I went and took it and cut a piece out the same size as that, on a whole end of that. And then I went over and took that and I fit that to the fender. So I trimmed it on the bottom here a small bit because it had to be for the shape of the fender. And I turned around and set this up now, and I welded that in and welded it inside. So now I'm going to grind and dress this here, and this side should be straightened away. I did a measurement for the center, and this side here has to go over. So I didn't have to shorten this, or I didn't have to cut this off. This is good where it's at. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up now, and I'll have this done, finally. And I got that all grinded down, brand new. I'm going to go over and fit it on the car now, and make sure that is where I want it to. I also turn around and clean this up on the bottom side. I had this set up, I was going to weld it on from this side here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this on the car. I'll position this, and as you can see, I went and put 2 spot welds, drill 2 holes in it for 2 spot welds, and I'll position that where it's got to go. I'll line up these holes at the factory location, and then I'll spot weld that while it's still on the car. So that piece here will be back where it should be. So then I got reference on the top side there to fit everything. So I'm going to finish that off, get that straightened away before it goes at anything else. So I got it all fitting in there now, fit pretty good. I went ahead then and I positioned this in place. I lined up this little bit of rusty metal here with the seam here, and I measured from here up to here on both sides. Measured from the fender lip down to here, and I've done the same thing over here because the side's still intact. And I turned around and I positioned it, lined up the hole here, and then I went and put 2 plug welds down there, welded them up. So that bracket is now installed on it. This is pretty still flimsy, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this piece next before I get into doing any repairs over on this side here, because all that there is I'm using is my templates. I start cutting it up and changing that, I'm going to lose it. So I'm going to go ahead now and build this piece. So I'm going to get a piece of scrap tin there now, probably about this long here, probably about that wide, and start bending up this piece. I got a piece of metal cut out, and I got a little template made there, playing around with the bend and everything. I got to set it up here now. I got to make a bunch of bends. This is what I'm saying, playing around with it. It's hard to vary see there. This goes in, and it goes up on a 45-degree angle, then it stops and comes up 90, and then goes straight in. This is what I come up with. Something like this, see? I've been playing around with it here in the bender, trying to figure out. I'll have to fine-tune it and get it to fit better, but that's where I'm to with it. I'm going to go over now in the bender and play around with it and see if I can make this bend. This is crucial for me to try to get this to look right, is right here. This section of the car you're going to be able to see, okay? And I would like to have them bends as close as possible as I can as what it's supposed to be. And so I'm going to work on that now. I'm going to go over in the bender, make a pile of bends. I'm going to see what it comes up with, because I may end up ruining this shit, I don't know. So here's where I'm to. I got it marked in the middle here with a scribe put on it. I'm going to try to see if I can duplicate that first bend. I'm not worried about no other bends, just that first one. So I'm going to clamp that in there. Make sure that's tight. Just work on getting that one little bend made. Well, was that a nightmare? You could barely see it in there where it goes in and it kicks up, and it kicks up again and rolls over the edge. You see the profile on the end there, look. Oh, I'm telling you, that wasn't easy. It's a bit tricky to do. One of the nicest things about using 18 gauge metal is that all the hammer marks and everything, you can sand them out pretty well, because, you know, it's still strong metal, and there's lots to work with, and then you can file it out to make it look nice, right? Because if you turn this over, you can see all the hammer marks and everything that are in that. You see them there, right? You turn over this side here, see little small imperfections, but for the most part, that's pretty good there. You look down across that there. That was the tricky one to make. Now I got to work out from that to make the front and to make the back. The front one's tricky as well. So I think I'm going to work on the front first, because the back is kind of like this type of thing going on. So, and this one here extends over farther. So let's get this here one worked out now. Looking at this some more, this is going to be trouble out here. And I think I got to do the back first, because the problem I got is over here I got a couple things going on. Okay. This has got a lip on it that tapers back, goes up and got a mounting point, and comes back in again if you look at it. Okay. Also, it's got a section here that extends out past the end of it, that comes out around the front there. See? None of that is existing over here. There's nothing there. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it here, give me some access here, cut this off here, and then I'm going to work on getting this here in the back done. I'm going to put a strip on it, mark it, and come straight across here, and I'll find out where this here mounting tab is to, and then just put that in there. And then I'm going to cut it, with just probably a quarter of an inch left, past like where I marked it. Cut a quarter of an inch off, and then I'm going to turn around and bend this up with her pliers all the way around here. And I got to cut it down through here, because this here tapers uphill, see? From the outside edge here. So I got to size up now where that there tapers off. Probably about right here somewhere, and then it tapers up, right? So it's a lot of work, a lot more than I expected. I figured I'd make a quick video out of this. Nope. I was kind of hoping to have this video out to you last week, but I got in over my head. So I'm going to go ahead now and start working this all out. I'm going to measure this distance here, cut some sections out of this piece here on the other side, and get ready to make all this back stuff. So here's what I went and did. I went over and took some measurements of this from the rolled edge in, and like from here in, that type of stuff, and I marked it, scribed it. Then I come back the width of the marker, I marked it and cut it off so there's excess there. And so I got a little lip there. I'm going to fold it up now with the linesman pliers, these ones here. Just a flat top plier, just no linesman pliers, nothing fancy. And roll this edge up here and do the same thing back here, and then I'll hammer and dolly with it just to get a nice sharp edge on it, okay? That's all I'll do. I'll go on now, get the rest of them done. So, here's where I'm to. I clamped it in place, fits pretty good down here. I gotta do some work here. This here is not lining up very good. I'm gonna have to dolly that a bit better. Figure something out for there. I'll work on that. This here got the plane is nice. This lines up nice in here, going along by the edge. I got to cut off up here, so it extends out past here. I'll worry about that later. and where it ends here comes in. I got so clamps onto the body. I got to drill a hole in that for a nut to go in, for a bolt to go in there. But now, next thing I got to work on now is getting this here. This is resting on top of the piece there. I'll show you what it's resting on. Resting on top of this now, which still got the original stuff on it. I got to take that off and clean that up. That's part of the front now. And then over here, you can see now it's got a taper on it. Tapers up. So the height here and the height here got to be a certain height. So that's what I got to work on now, is getting this here taper to go into it like that there. So I'll work on that first. Getting this off, get this cleaned up, so I can put it back on again, leave it there. We're going to leave all this alone for now. I just got to make sure that's cleaned up first. Then I got to start working on getting this section to fit. First thing I did, I got this all cleaned up. I got two of them cleaned up there. Then I went ahead and I cut this. Okay. I trimmed that up so that it could actually fit in here, because this tapers upwards. This gets wider as it gets on the end and it tapers down here, right? And I got this from this side here. You can see the way it tapers up here and it tapers back. All I did is I made this little gauge up here, and I done this here and laid it so that it fit flat on it. Then I moved it over till it started to go uphill, okay, on the panel. When it started to go uphill on the panel, I marked it, which is about 6.5 inches back here, and that's where I got this measurement from. So I cut it back 6.5 inches. Also, this here fades out. This little lip fades out, and about right here, about 4 inches from the end of it, it's just a 90-degree bend, and that's all it is. I flattened it out on the end here, back 4 inches, and now I'm going to put in a piece in there. This is a little piece I made up, this one here. I'm going to go ahead now, fit that in there, weld that in, and get it all grinded up. So here you have it, all grinded up. Here it is on the inside. Just wipe the head off it, just to keep it the strength there. All I did this here is I rolled this edge here with the grinder, with the pad, and the inside cornered edge. A lot of you wonders about it. All I use is a stone that's been rounded out. See, an old stone. And I'll just get in there with the grinder, and I'll grind that down there till I'm happy with it. I'll touch up any spots that had to be done, because after going back in and doing this once already, and then I grind it off again. Then I'll just run over it right quick with the 24 grit, and that'll be it. So I got that straightened away now. I was over, had a test fit on the car. Fits pretty good, made a few adjustments. What I got to do next now is I got to cap this end. If you notice, I'm not getting ahead of myself here. I'm doing one thing at a time. As I'm completing this, I'm thinking about the next thing I'm going to do, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cap this end. This here just has a little roll lip that goes down, but I'm just going to take a large piece, weld it on there, weld it on the inside and out, and then grind it, dress it so that this here has a nice dressed edge on this side here. It's supposed to have a little lip similar to this here that just goes along here and goes down to here. So I'm going to go ahead, get that all done, get that all grind and dressed up. There it is. Just a nice little lip on the end of it. Dress it up. Give it a bit of strength. And you're saying, Tony, why did you put such a big piece on it? It's a lot easier to make a piece smaller than it is to try to start with a small piece and try to make weld it in. So I got that there in now. I'm going to go over now and fit this in place, clamp it in place, and start marking out for the outside. So I got it all clamped in place. You can see the nice little finish I got on the end of it here now. And I'll come over here and I lined it all up here and I clamped it on. Clamped it onto the existing piece on it. Again, I still haven't cut that off. And then I got to clamp down to the bracket that I got to weld onto here. And there's another one here in behind this that I got to be welded on here. And that's rested on top of it. I'm pretty pleased with how it's looking so far. Now I got all this here and done. I'm not going to worry about this yet because I'm still moving stuff around. I got to trim this all up, put a hole in it. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm out here now and I got to follow this bead. This is even more complicated than this one. This one comes over, turns down on a 90, turns out on a 90, turns down on a 90, and it comes straight out. I don't know, you can barely see that. See if I can zoom in on that. No, it's not going to zoom in on it. Very hard to see. But there's a couple of beads there. Now, I don't have to get carried away with it because there's a rubber mat goes over this. But I'm going to play with it and see if I can get it. It's always a challenge for me, right? So I got to pull a bead, a bead, a bead. Now, it'd be nice now if I ran through a bead roller with a square edge on it. I'd probably do that. but I'm not going at that. I'm going to try to do all this here with basic tools and see what I can come up with. That's half the fun I goes at this stuff. This is an extremely complicated piece. I have a lot of fun here. It's really put me through the motions of figuring things out, because it's all one step at a time, and there's probably about 25 steps to this panel alone. So anyway, I got it marked here on this side of the bead, and I marked it down here. And how I marked it down here is I took this protractor, and again I went to the other side and I measured there, and then I went over here and I measured here, and then I marked it. Okay, so I'm going to draw a straight line along there now, and I'm going to bend it on a 90-degree angle there, and I'm going to hammer it in the vise to sharpen up the bend, and then I'm going to try folding it back, see what I come up with. It's going to be fun. So the problem I'm running into here now is I got the 2 spots marked here, okay, with the pencil, is that I need to put it in the vise this way, okay? Now what I went and did is I took a punch, and I punched it right on top of the pencil mark here, and right there. You can see it. So now I can flip this over. When I punched it, you can actually see the dimple there. Okay, there's a dimple there, another one there. These will be the ones now that I'll use to line up on this side here so I can bend it. I just want to clamp that in the vise and hammer that down, put a nice sharp edge on it. Wasn't easy, but I think I got it. Down through here. You saw me there bending and then hammering it on the edges. What I was doing, I was tightening up the radiuses and making it smaller and tightening it up so I had nice sharp edges. But I'm pretty close to this here now where I'm happy with it. Because all this got to go back, and it's kind of hard to set it up because when you overlap it, all this moves forward because so many bends involved in it. Moves ahead a lot. So I should be able to get away with it there. I can dolly it in and line it up that way. I'm pretty pleased with it. It could be better, but I'm happy enough that it's going to work for me. So what I got to do now is the fun part. I got to work this end over here. I got to put a rolled edge on this side here. So let's size that up next. Now on the ends, it's a little bit different. I got to get out of my light here because I'm in my own light. The bead comes down, then it rotates around the corner, and there's a turn on it. And this flat edge goes on around this edge here. It's going to be a bit tricky to do. I'm going to measure off here now, and I'm just going to guesstimate where this is going to be at. It's going to be a bit of fun, I can guarantee you that. But I got this going straight off here now. It's pretty straight, so it's pretty mangled on the end of it there. So I got to flatten it all out again and start rolling this edge in around here. I'm just going to have the hammer form all that by hand and just play around with it and see how good I can get it. If I don't like it, I'll just cut it off and I'll weld a piece on there. That's the easiest way to put it. So I'm going to play around with it there now and trim all this up and get this all hammered down, see if I can shape it to this shape here. Playing around with it here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to try a bit of hammer forming. I got a piece of 1/4 inch plate here that I went over my bin. I found a piece of scrap. Then I shaped it to the shape of this here. On this end here. I've done this shape here onto this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I got that cleaned up now on the opposite side. Now roll the edge on it because I didn't want a sharp edge like this here on it because it'll only cut the metal. And I had to round out the edge on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to position this on the back side of this here, where I want it to be. Okay. I'm going to put that like that. I'm going to put a couple of quick tacks on it just to hold it so it doesn't move on this here, and I can cut it off later. Then I'm going to flip it over in, clamp it onto the I-beam, and I'm going to start hammer forming this end here. I went ahead and positioned a piece of steel on the back side of this here, and then I welded it on in a couple of locations. You can see where the heat is too. I didn't want to weld nothing up in this corner because I don't want to have that deal with a hard weld up here, right? So now I got it clamped to my I-beam. I'm just going to slowly start working this section here. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Just going to take my time shaping this up here to get this to roll down around this here. This bead here fades out like this here and goes from this bead here down to here on this rolled edge here. So this here really don't matter. I noticed on the other side that the bead, if you look at it, it just seems to fade out. Look. I'm in my own light every time I goes at this. It just seems to fade out there. Okay? It goes from this one here right on down to the bottom. So I should be alright with it. I had to go back and fine tune it. I took the bracket off again. I start realizing that there had to be a nice rolled edge on that there to roll off to the bottom side. And it was a lot easier to put it into steel and roll it off than it was to try to think I was going to hammer it into it. It was because it would have went sharp on me on the roll. So now I got something for that to roll over the edge of. So I'll reposition this again, this on this now, and weld it on right here. So I got this repositioned, reshaped. I got a clamp to the I-beam. I got it so I got a nice flat surface to hammer against, and all this here. So I'm just going to slowly start working this now with the hammer. See if I got to remake this whole piece again. Now that's not half bad. You can see the way that went around the shape of that there, and the way this fades out now. Okay. See the way that goes like that there? You can see where it hammers it around, all the way around at the flat edge of it. Some of you might have noticed me there hammering on a hammer, especially a body hammer, and cringed when you saw me doing it. I've been doing that for years. I don't These body hammers, I don't, like, fellas loves finishing them off and having them perfect. And to me, that's for aluminum work, okay? I'm doing rough and ready, getting stuff ready. And the head on this hammer has never been polished, okay? And I've done that technique many, many times. As long as the heads of your hammer are not damaged, you should be fine, okay? I don't go to hell with it and really pound hard on it. You don't, like, you hear fellas talk about pieces flying off of hammer heads, and you know, you should never hit two hard hammer heads together. And some say it's a myth, some say it's not, some say, you know, one or the other. I've been doing it for 30 years. I just don't get carried away with it, okay? So I got this all straightened away here now. And what I got to do now is I got to dress all this up, and I got to trim this down here. And get ready for the next little thing I got to do with it, okay? So I'll get this all grinded down. This is 18 gauge. A lot of this is going to be able to come out of it. So I'm going to turn around and get this all cleaned up now and get it grind down. Okay, in this here now, you can look at and see a lot of imperfections in this here now. Years ago, when they used to do metal work, there used to be a thing called picking and filing, which is basically what they did. They hammered the metal up and they filed it off. They filed it flat. They're actually removing material, okay? And a lot of times, so you can't do that with modern metals with like 22, 24 gauge metal. This is the reason why I use 18, okay? I got 18 here now. I can take the grinder and I'm going to use the same type process that they did years ago. All I'm going to do is going to grind this flat all down through here and dress this up. There's enough material in this here that I can remove a portion of it to help flatten it out, okay? That's like, you know, the poor man's pick and file is that grinder there, okay? So I'll turn around and I'll grind and dress all this up, and you can see all these imperfections in along here and in along here, this type of stuff, and the hammer marks all down through here. I'll grind all this up here and I'll make it all nice and smooth. There's enough material there that I can actually smooth it out and make it flat. Like, I can barely feel the imperfections, but I can see them, okay? If you can't feel the imperfection that bad, it should sand out nice. As you can see, nice and smooth, okay? That's all I went and did, is I just used a 24 grit on the 18 gauge metal. 18 gauge is harder to work with, but you got this option here. I figured this out a long time ago when I'd be working with 22 and 24 gauge metal, and I'd be trying to smooth it out, and I just make it too thin, okay? One of the advantages of going with this here now, where this is 18 gauge, I'm buzzing this off. I'll probably turn it into 20 gauge metal. When it's all buzzed down, it's still solid, okay? So I'm going to go ahead now and get all this grind up, get this all dressed, and get ready to do the next step. So I got it all grind off, all dressed up. Looks very nice there now. Now, some of you are wondering about the thickness, about how much I'm actually grinding off this, because you see me using this grinder, and it's extremely coarse, okay? And you say, well, he really takes a lot of material off. Well, I'm going to show you something here. Now, here's this gauge here. Now, I got to look at it upside down because I can't do it this way because I'm left-handed. But anyway, this got wrote on it there. See if I can get it there right. It's got, here we go, 18 gauge and 20 gauge. See the 18 gauge and 20 gauge there? Okay, now when I put this out here on the 18 gauge, okay, that's the thickness of that there. There's no movement in that. That's 18 gauge metal. So now over here, you've seen all the work that I done here, and then I grinded it all down. Now when I put the 18 gauge in there, in that spot there, okay, there's the 18 gauge. There's a small bit of play there, okay? Now just watch this. There's 20 gauge. See the 20 gauge there? I can't get the 20 gauge in there, okay? 20 gauge won't fit in there, but the 18 will, okay? That's the thing. Now, how much am I taking off? I'm not even taking off. It was 18 gauge and 20 gauge. I may take like a thou off it, and that's it. With that grinder, you would think that I grinded all that down. That'd be like 24 gauge metal with all them imperfections that were in that there and going along here. You think that I grinded all that there now really thin. As you can see there now, as coarse as this grinder is, I'm not even taking a thou off it, or whatever you want to call it, 1 gauge of metal. Yeah, 1 gauge thickness off it. I went from 18 gauge, I'm willing to say, down to probably 19 gauge with that there. On this one here, the 18 gauge fits on it and is loose, and the 20 gauge won't fit on it. So it's in there, between there. So still lots of material there. Most cars today are 22 and 24, okay? Them ones up there, and I work with 18, okay? But I figured I'd just point that out because a lot of people sees me using this grinder and expects a lot of material removed from the panel. There's not as much material as you think being taken from it. Been at this a long time, and you know, imperfections. This is all they done years ago when they done repairs on panels. They used to file them. They pick and file them to get the low spots out, and they continued up to it, and they actually thin the metal out because they're filing material off. All I'm doing is the same process here. It's just that I'm using a grinder. So the last thing I got to do here now is, I wouldn't say it's the last thing, it's one of the last things. I got to trim this off because this is too much out on the panel. So I measured it here. Okay, took a measurement from there and I come over to it. And I just went along there and I scribed it. You see the scribe line? There's a scribe line there somewhere. Anyway, yeah, see the scribe line there. I got that scribe there all the way around. I'm going to take the zip blade now and cut that off. So I went ahead and I drilled out a couple of spot welds to fit on the sides here. I went and dressed this up here, dollied it all up, drilled a hole in it, got that all figured out. It doesn't matter where it's to because I'll drill a hole wherever that got to go because that there was repaired anyway, so there's no big deal. So I'm here now looking at it, fine-tuning things, looking at it closely, wanting to see how close it is and what I can do to fix it to make it even closer. All this has to move back, of course, right? But the problem I'm having right now is this here all seems to be good, but it seems like it'd be out this way a small smidgen too much. So I'm here sizing it all up and figuring it all out. And I'm taking some measurements on the other side, and the other side's a bit tighter here than this side. I'm not too concerned about that part of it because you're not going to see the left and the right so much. But I've been sizing it all up here, and I'm thinking I measured it off from this inner lip here out to the outer edge, and I'm a little bit longer out here all the way along here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld it on up here, and then I'm going to cut it and butt it, move this back here and weld it on here, and get it welded to right here, and get this all done. Then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to split this right down through here and just slide this whole piece back. That's one thing about metal, it can always be moved, right? This here all looks good out here. It's got a nice finish on it. All that looks good. It's just that all this here seems to be out this way too far. Now, I also have one more little bit of metal fabrication to do, or forming I got to do. This here has these little indentations that the clip slides on over for the rubber nose piece, the rubber extension that goes on it. And they're all the same distance apart. So I went over here and I marked them. One here and one here. So I'm going to take them over now and just do the old clamping device and a piece of 1-inch steel slap down through here with the hammer just to put this little indent in it, and then I'll be happy with that, and then I can start fitting this in place and start getting it ready to weld it on. I got the vise opened up 1 1/8 inches. I got a piece of 1-inch angle iron. I got that clamped to the vise. I center that up inside that there. All the way back. Put that over there. And watch that the vice grips don't let go. Oh, I went and dented too much of that. Oh no, I ruined it. I'm going to have to start all over again. That's not happening. I went back too far. I gotta fix that now. Just a little bit of hammering. Brand new. I'll go make the other one now. And there you got a completed piece. Okay? Little indentations are back in there. Rolls around the edge. Steps up here. It's got a V in it there. It's got a couple of double lines out here. It's all cut in here. All made with simple tools. A welder and a grinder and a hammer. That's the easiest way to describe that. So now I gotta go over and test fit that in the car and start welding it on here and here, because I know I'm gonna have to cut this through here because it is a little bit too wide, and I'm not gonna do nothing. I like what I got done here. This looks good, so I'm just gonna move it back so it all lines up. And I've noticed this here is a little tiny bit wide. That's one of the problems when you're bending metal. You always got to watch where you're bending your metal. Sometimes you bend too short or you bend it too long, and in this case here I bent it too long. But you know, for what I'm working with and with tools that I have, I think that's pretty damn close. So let's get that welded in now. I ended up doing the cut, the fit on this here. I put it on, I scribed it, and I cut it clean right off because it was interfering with everything. Now the fitment here is not as bad as I thought it was. This outer line lines up, it's just this inner line one on the outer edge. So I may have to split it down through here to get it to shape right. I'm not too concerned about it really, but I got all this in here. I got a little bit of work to do right here to dolly it up. It's a bit low there, but I'll skip over that and I'll just weld it below it, and I'll weld above it, and then I'll dolly that there so it's all even. I used the straight edge that I had there, old piece of steel that was factory cut edge on it. It's got a straight edge on it, and lined up the lip here. So when you look down across it, all that was straight. And then that held it level this way, going along that way. Then I clamped it on over here. I'm going to weld it on here. And I think I could probably weld it on here now, because I don't intend to. No, I might do some difference there. I won't weld that yet. But I'm going to weld it here, weld it down through here, weld it over here, so I can get this half solid. Then I'll pop this off and weld the inside there. So I'll get this welded up now. So I got it welded in place. I ended up welding it down here because the more I sized it up after, about from right, I think it's about right here, this inner line here got to be moved in, or this outer line got to be moved in. I went and compared it to the other side, put a straight edge on it. I'm good along here. This inner line goes along pretty good. It's just this outer one gets a little bit wide as it gets back here, so I'm going to cut this piece off here and re-weld it in again just to tuck it back a bit. But it fits good. Okay. Made a big difference in it because that was always flimsy and everything's nice and solid there now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get that trimmed up, get that all welded up. I'm going to take it off the car and do all that. And get all that trimmed up and get that welded up so that I can actually finish that piece there. So I went ahead and I welded and grinded that up, finished all that off, tidied up all my sections and everything. I went down and finished welding this side down here, and I said, okay, I showed them how to make these, I showed them how to make that. So there's no need of me doubling up and showing them it all again. So I went ahead and I done this side. Got the top all repaired, got a new section put in the bottom down here. As you can see, there's a few pieces kicking around on the floor. I ended up replacing this whole lower section, making it all up again, same as the other side. This one up here is not as bad. I just replaced so much of the top and the outside corner edge. Repeated all the same processes I followed on the other side. This here was a major undertaking, okay? As small as these panels are, there's just so much going on. Like, if I don't have OCD, I do now, because trying to make the left look like the right, and it was just crazy. Because I had this side made, and then I had to size this one up, and then two of them didn't look like, so I had to change this one, you know, cut everything up. I ended up taking the piece then and putting it over here and trying to mirror it off of this one here, so that when I put it over there, it looked the same. And then the fender was a different shape. Oh, I'm telling you, what I went through. What you see here now, when I walked away from this last section in the video, where I was getting ready to finish this off up here, It's been 2 days now, 2 full days working on this other side over here. Most of my time was in trying to get everything symmetrical. I had nothing on the top side here, nothing. Absolutely nothing was here. This was the same thing, but this side over here was pretty good. And then trying to duplicate what I got done over here, oh, I'm telling you, it was a handful. Trying to make sure the same distance from the bar here, make sure that you can see the roll bar on the bottom side here, the same on both sides, right? I had to, set all that up. Like it was probably the worst part of the car. By rights, I should have replaced it. But me finding one of these sections of these Toyotas, I'm willing to say, from what I can think of, I'm going to have to go overseas to get it, because it's not something I could probably get stateside. And it'll be a used part, and then what's the chances of it not being rusted out? It's one of those things. I know for a fact they don't make them in aftermarket. They don't make nothing for these aftermarket fenders, I think. Front fenders you can get for them, and a couple other patch panels, but I don't think you can get much else for them. But any of you guys down south, or in Australia, or any of them places, fill me in if there is. Some fellas sent me links to like fiberglass hoods and stuff like that, but no. I'm thinking about this here. If I did find this section here, just for argument's sake, had to have it shipped here, I'm willing to say that would there. Forget about how much the person wants for the piece, but just to get the piece here, it's anywhere from $500 to $800 in shipping, I'd say, because of the size that it is. It had to come up in a large box. Shipping is always a killer for us up here. Whatever it is, double it, okay? Because shipping's going to cost you that. And larger pieces are always in a lot of trouble. So, but I got through it. There is over 20 pieces welded into this little tiny section of the car. On top of that, then there's a dozen or so spots that I welded up. Like there was heavy blisters, and I just welded the top of them and grinded them off just to give them a bit of strength, get rid of the rust, right? Up here on the top side here, there's a couple of spots here where I just welded up the top of the rust. It seemed like it was a deep blister. And I just, similar to this one here, like right here, and I'd weld it up, and I'd weld it up. That's all I do with them, right? If there's a hole there, it's going to burn a hole there. So, and then you just weld it in. But, I can tell you, I'm very pleased with it. Finally. It was a lot of work, trying to get it all fitted. Trying to get these down here to flow with the fender, so it can be bolted on, okay? Could have made a custom valance for this. But no, and see them seams, I'm a stickler for them. I love seams, right? This type of stuff. Some fellas will just take that and weld all that up, but no, that's not me. I come from the body trade, and we done that years ago. When stuff rusted out, we'd fill it over it. And that's what I think every time I see seams welded up. A lot of custom car builders do it, but for me, I like seams. It just makes the car look like it's not been filled. That's the easy way to put that. But the funniest thing about this, all this time, of all the panels on this car that I've done, I'm going to say this one here was the most challenging, okay? Because it was so small and there was so much going on, okay? It was tricky. I had a lot of troubles with it. I got frustrated. I can tell you I got frustrated more than once. Especially for the timeline. I expected to start this and finish it and... spend an afternoon at it and get it done. But when I got into it, I was in over my head. But make the best of it. When I fix the bumper on this, you're not going to see none of this. Puts the grill in it and the rubber front on it. You're only going to see this much of the grill. But that's it. I got it done. That's the main thing. That was probably the worst part on the entire car. I was debating on what I was going to do there. I was going to, but I like the whole point that I saved a good portion of it, okay? The two ends are replaced, all the middle is original, and pretty well, same with the top, two ends are replaced, but the middle is original. Just something with this car that I've got into a routine of wanting to repair everything. So she still retains her factory original front valance and bumper guard. So, and her fenders and her doors and all that type of stuff. So, it's going to be interesting when it's all said and done. How many pieces are welded in it, but sometimes you got to do that to cars. But anyway, I'm rambling on here now. I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, hit like and share. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe down the bottom of the page. If you want to donate to the channel, down below there's a button, super thanks button. If you want to click on that, it'll take you through the motions of making donations to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. We also got merchandise. Pop over to Fitzy'sFabrications.com and check out our merchandise. We have hoodies, sweaters, t-shirts, and stickers. Lots to choose from. Thanks for watching.